Usually when we talk about a great romance, there's this heavy cultural expectation of poetry and grand gestures.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, like we are totally conditioned by movies to expect a couple staying up until 3 in the morning, bearing their souls to each other, unpacking every single feeling and, constant validating each other with these long emotional monologues.
It is a highly verbal expectation, We're taught that love is measured by the sheer volume of words exchanged and the visible intensity of the emotion.
Exactly. Like if it isn't loud, it supposedly isn't real.
Right. Our culture absolutely demands love stories to be loud and obvious.
But then you step into the world of John and Melissa Mott, and suddenly that whole rom-com script is just completely thrown out the window.
Yeah, completely.
So for you listening, today we are doing a deep dive into a relationship landscape defined by extreme efficiency, profound silence, and like a level of synchronized sarcasm that is almost alarming.
Alarming but fascinating.
Totally. Our overarching mission today is to analyze this highly unusual dynamic through the lens of a single text. Our source material is a brief, highly specific bonus chapter titled Melissa Mott,
It's from the Book of Mott, a practical guide to leadership, sarcasm, and surviving the school day.
which was written by John Mott, but this specific chapter is entirely about his wife, Melissa, who is a teacher.
And what makes this text captivating is the lens John uses. He writes about his wife not with flowery romantic prose, but with this highly detached analytical precision.
Like he's studying her.
Exactly. He is studying a phenomenon. He is observing her behavior in her natural habitat to figure out why she is so incredibly effective.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because right out of the gate, John establishes the baseline of their dynamic by talking about how he views her professional success.
He does not mince words.
No, he doesn't. He bluntly admits, my wife is better at this than I am, and notes that this is not a difficult claim to defend.
And then he proves it with the award story.
Right, so Melissa is named Teacher of the Month. There's an announcement, applause, a certificate, the whole deal. John is in the room. But he deliberately does not clap first.
He waits.
He waits exactly half a second before joining in. His reasoning is timing matters. He says there is a difference between reacting and confirming. I was confirming.
What's fascinating here is the conscious decision to fight a basic social instinct. Like when someone we love wins an award, the natural human drive is to be the loudest person in the room.
To jump up and start screaming immediately.
Right, because that is a reaction. It's driven by raw emotion, tribal loyalty, and affection. But John actively suppresses that emotion because he wants his applause to carry a different weight.
I have to be honest, reading about this delayed clap felt incredibly cold to me at first. It borders on emotional detachment. I mean, why wouldn't you just cheer for your spouse?
Well, it feels cold if we measure love by emotional outbursts. But think about the psychology of validation for a second. If your spouse leaps up to cheer for you, there's a part of your brain that dismisses it slightly, thinking, well, of course they're cheering. They love me. They have to.
Oh, like it's an obligation.
Exactly. By waiting that half second, John is removing the bias of affection. He is signaling to the room, to himself, and to Melissa that he isn't clapping out of marital duty.
He's a professional in this field.
Yes, he has analyzed her work, and he is stating that she objectively deserves this. He views her excellence as an undeniable fact that simply requires his professional confirmation.
So is this emotional detachment, or is it actually the highest possible form of professional respect?
Wow, yeah. It's like the difference between a fan screaming at a rock concert and a Supreme Court judge banging a gavel.
That's a great way to put it.
One is uncontrolled emotion, and the other is an objective verdict. And that same calculated objectivity isn't just how he applauds her, it is how he studies her. Here's where it gets really interesting.
He really digs into the mechanics. He does. He admits he observes his wife at work indirectly, so as not to be disruptive. He's looking for the pattern of her success. Reading this, I felt like he was observing her the way a wildlife documentarian studies an apex predator.
Or an efficiency expert on a factory floor.
Yes. Looking for the exact moment the gears shift to make the machine run.
And his observations are remarkably astute. He pinpoints exactly why students respond to her management style. He notes that she is reliably invested rather than just occasionally kind.
Which is such a vital distinction. Anyone can have a good Tuesday, It's easy to be occasionally kind.
Right. But to be reliably invested means doing the work and maintaining the standard even on the days you are absolutely exhausted. John says because she is reliably invested, the students work for her not because they have to, but because they want to.
But how does that actually work mechanically? Like, why does reliable investment change a student's behavior so drastically?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of authentic authority, we're looking at the fundamental difference between compliance and cooperation. Compliance, doing something just because a figure of authority demands it, is inherently fragile. It requires constant external pressure.
The second the teacher looks away, the kid stops working.
Exactly. It is exhausting for everyone. Cooperation, however, is sustainable. When a leader is reliably invested, they create an environment of psychological safety.
So the student realizes the rules aren't just arbitrary power trips.
Right. They are systems designed to help the student succeed. Once the student's brain recognizes the teacher as a reliable partner rather than an adversary, their motivation shifts from external to internal. They want to do the work.
That internal shift explains another trait John dissects. He mentions people often describe Melissa as sweet, which he agrees with, but they also call her feisty.
Which is a loaded word.
Extremely loaded. In a lot of workplaces, calling a woman feisty is used dismissively to imply she is overly emotional or difficult to manage, like it's a bad thing. But John frames it as a highly efficient tool. He says sweet and feisty are not conflicting traits. They are sequential.
Sequential. By framing them as a sequence, he completely redefines classroom management. He writes, there is a point where patience transitions into clarity.
Patience transitions into clarity. That is brilliant, because for most people, when patience runs out, it transitions into anger.
Right. It transitions into raised voices, chaos, and a total loss of emotional control. But for Melissa, that so-called feistiness isn't anger. It is the firm, uncompromising establishment of a boundary.
The students realize the boundary isn't born out of hostility. It's from that reliable investment. She is sweet until the exact moment she needs to be clear.
And John notes she recognizes that transition point faster than most. He illustrates it perfectly with how she handles discipline.
A student walks in with confidence and leaves with understanding. He spells out the method. No raised voices, no unnecessary language, just adjustment.
Just adjustment. It speaks to a breathtaking economy of action. She doesn't lecture or try to make the student feel small. She simply calibrates the behavior back to the required standard.
And what's wild is that economy of language does not stay in the classroom. That exact same efficiency translates directly into their living room and defines their private marriage.
It really does.
John explains they do not talk about work the way people expect them to. No long debriefs at the kitchen table. A typical exchange consists of literally one sentence. Melissa will say, that was something, and John will nod and think, it usually was.
And that's the entire debrief.
Which is such a strong pushback against conventional relationship advice. Society constantly tells you that communication is key, and couples need to talk everything out.
This raises an important question about our assumptions about intimacy. We're fed this narrative that healthy marriages require constant verbal processing of every stressor.
But I've been thinking about this, and I have a new analogy. Their marriage operates like a compressed ZIP file.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? All the emotional and contextual data is in there. It just doesn't need to be unzipped and explained every single night.
Because they have the exact same software to read it. The advantage of working in the exact same school system means you share the exact same daily context.
You don't need context. You can skip to conclusions.
Exactly. John writes, silence works at home too. For John and Melissa, shared context entirely eliminates the need for exposition. Their silence is a marker of profound alignment rather than distance.
A marker of profound alignment. That is incredible. But then we get the ultimate stress test of this silent ZIP file communication style.
The biggest day of their career.
Yes. The day they pull all these threads together. John goes in to tell the director he is retiring. It's a massive, permanent decision. Afterward, he checks his phone.
Because he doesn't check it during conversations.
Which he dryly notes. This has been explained. I love that deadpan humor. So he looks at his phone, and there's a text from Melissa. The timestamp is 30 minutes before John's meeting, and the text simply says, I just retired.
And notice what he does. He reads the text twice, not for clarity, but for confirmation.
There is that confirmation again.
Just like the delayed clap. He is confirming an objective reality.
And the confrontation when they finally talk is absolute comedy. John says, you could have told me. And Melissa replies, I did.
And John admits she is technically correct.
So what does this all mean? We are looking at the sheer absurdity of a married couple retiring on the exact same day independently without coordinating it.
John notes this is either very efficient or deeply concerning.
It's hilarious. Most couples would agonize for months over this, spreadsheets, late-night talks, but they independently pulled the ripcord 30 minutes apart.
It ties the entire relationship dynamic together perfectly. They are so fundamentally in sync, so reliably invested in the same worldview that they don't even need to consult each other on massive life pivots.
And John marvels at the contrast between the temporary milestones like the Teacher of the Month and this permanent one. He says, I told her congratulations. She said, thank you. That was the conversation. It was enough.
It was enough. In a world demanding constant verbal validation, they found security in the minimum necessary exchange. John closes by saying her success is obvious if you are paying attention. She is, and so is he, just not to his text messages.
The perfect sarcastic button on the whole thing. So, for you listening, to synthesize this deep dive, John and Melissa Mott prove that romance doesn't always look like poetry and endless conversation.
It really doesn't.
Sometimes, true partnership looks like synchronized sarcasm, skipping to the conclusions, and arriving at the exact same life-altering decision 30 minutes apart.
The silence is supported by total mutual comprehension.
Exactly. But before we go, I want to leave you with a brand new provocative thought to mull over today. Something that builds on the source but hasn't really been discussed yet.
Okay, let's hear it.
John and Melissa's incredibly efficient, unspoken communication style was built entirely on the advantage of working in the exact same school system. They shared the exact same daily context. Now that they have both permanently retired and left that shared ecosystem behind, will they have to completely reinvent the language of their marriage from scratch?
Wow. When the silence isn't full of shared data anymore, what fills the gap?
Something to explore on your own. Until next time, keep paying attention to the obvious things.